Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF podcast.
Hey, I got a bone to pick.
Guys, I am so fired up.
Sleep deprived and all, I'm happy to be here.
You probably cut off your hot dog. You don't need it on a bun.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. It is the last DTF podcast that we are going to do with games to play in the 2024-2025 college basketball season. The Final Four, gentlemen, is set. Duke will be playing Houston. Auburn will be playing for Florida, and all four number one seeds are heading to San Antonio. T.O., your thoughts on what has been the chalkiest of chalk Final Fours?
It has been up and down. We've had some games that have been really good. That Florida game and Walter Clayton's display of shot making had my head spinning. That's how much fun that game was. Outside of that, there's been a lot of ebbs and flows as far as, you know, we saw the best of Tennessee, what they could do offensively, and we saw the absolute worst of Tennessee. They had, 12 points up for the first 18 minutes of the game. That was crazy. But I think one thing that we figured out this year is it is the most complete top that we've ever seen. When I say that, what I mean is the top four teams have been so dominant, so utterly dominant this year that there's like a clear second tier, and the second tier starts at the fifth best team. That's how good it's going to be in San Antonio. I'm hoping for three great games. I think it's possible we have three great games. But it has been very chalky, and there's going to be a lot of talk about the portal and NIL and what it's done to the mid-majors. I don't want to hear it. There's always going to be a team that sneaks through that just happens to be one of these years. I think the last time we had, four number ones, Roy Williams was at Kansas. That's how long ago we're talking about. So this does happen. It doesn't happen often, but I do think it's going to be a fantastic Final Four. I'm pissed that I'm not going to freaking be there because I love the event, and I especially love the event in San Antonio. It's one of my favorite cities. Love the event in San Antonio. So cool to be on the river walk and all that. I think San Antonio, New Orleans, two terrific cities for the Final Four. So I'm not happy, but at the same time, I have to make do with watching it on television.
So this is historic in the respect of these four teams since KenPom started in 1996 would be in the top 10 all time. The 2008 Final Four featured 20 future NBA players, multiple All-Stars. I mean, you just had so many studs between Kansas, Carolina, Memphis, and UCLA on those teams between Russ and D. Rose. I mean, it was amazing. I think for me, the take of it being boring and of being chalky, I'm not going to sit here and say that in this particular tournament, we haven't seen some results that and the majority of the results be like that. But What do you really remember? What do you really remember about a tournament, ultimately, over anything? Whether or not the championship game delivers the goods.
Right.
And the last 2 years, really the last couple of years, it's been relatively boring. It's been a matter of formality to crown UConn as champion. Good for UConn fans. Dolster hasn't sweat or had to be really that nervous, even though he was pregame. But when I asked some people this morning, I'm like, when's the last title game that you truly remember being great? The answers varied. Somebody said Gordon Hayward. Somebody said a title game for the early 2000s. I said, look, it's got to be 2016 when Chris Jenkins hits the shot after Marcus Page knocks it down for Carolina and Villanova wins, and they changed the course of their program history. If we get three great games and an all-time weekend, this will go down as the most impactful, eventful, loaded at the top Final Four that we have seen. Now, it does bear noting, the game has changed. And I think we were talking about this before the show. Because of the way basketball is being played, faster, more possessions, more threes, analytically speaking, you're going to see teams that are advanced. Todd Golden and John Shire are two of the bright young minds in the sport, if not the brightest young minds in the sport. And Kelvin Sampson's evolved, and Bruce Pearl has certainly evolved. And I'm fascinated by that angle. Four coaches who have never won a national championship here. But I do think that when you look at the sport, when the very, very best go up against each other, that's where you have the opportunity for something truly special to happen. And I do think it's important. As much as the television ratings probably won't get hurt much because they've been very, very high because of the big brands, I do think it's important that when you have this collection of teams, that we get a weekend that is, in fact, the goods. And I think we're going to get that. Rather than being negative about this, I turn it the other way and say, we're not going to get this every year. Not the 4 number ones. It took the bounce of a ball several times for us to get this collection of teams. It could just as easily be Texas Tech. Frankly, it should be.
Yep. And look,
I love that.
Go ahead.
I love it. And I'm sorry to even bring it up. And Gabs, like when it comes to selling a product and watching these great games, I'm in complete agreement. And I'm a glass half full guy when it comes to a lot of that. I did not love, and they obviously have to address how Texas Tech handled it at the end. However, fucking Florida had to freaking hit shots. Like some of these shots that Walter Clayton hit, insane. They had to finish free throws. Why don't we focus on how freaking good they were as opposed to it being like, oh, well, Texas Tech. I didn't. Hey, look, Barkley's great. He does get negative.
Mm-hmm.
He gets negative. And when you're trying to sell for the next weekend, why wouldn't you talk about how freaking good Walter Clayton is and how exciting how freaking exciting it is to have a guy that's in college. Now, some of the shots he made, and he was able to get, he got some calls. I get all that.
Thomas Houck.
Unbelievable. Why aren't we focusing on that? As opposed to, man, we're gonna kick ourselves, man. We lost the Elite Eight. We're gonna kick ourselves.
And analytics won the game.
Yes, we focus on that here on the Field of 60. That's something that I pride our network in.
You bet your ass. It's fun, man. It's fun. God.
There's room to be disappointed and talk about how, what happened with Jonas Adu missing free throws and what happened with the guys on Texas Tech missing free throws. But you still had to hit 4 threes in about 100 seconds. You still had the 4th 3 that Walter Clayton hit where he caught the ball in the middle of the lane, dribbles it out, and then hits a turnaround fadeaway over 2 guys when they're down by 2 with a minute left. One, that is a ridiculous shot to even think that you should be taking in that moment. And 2, it's even more ridiculous that he made that shot. And 3, T.O., please tell me if anyone comes to mind, I have never in my life see somebody that is so nonchalantly an assassin. Walter Clayton is just out there like he is shooting around in warmups, and it's just oh, I'm just gonna dribble right over here, and I got 2 guys on me, but I'm gonna take this little fadeaway with absolutely no space, and it's gonna go in, and then I'm gonna run back on defense like I just made a layup in layup lines. He doesn't. I don't think he realizes the moment that he's in right now. I don't think he realizes the stage that he's on. Sometimes I just want to smack him in the back of the head and be like, dude, you just hit a game-winning shot to put your team into the Final Four. And it's like nothing happened. What are you doing? Wake up, man. This is amazing.
Rob, it took stones. How about the testicles it takes to say, we're going to foul with 2:50 on the clock?
Yes.
Nobody does that. I told Jonathan Sapphire and I were messaging about it last night. T.O., I think this. They're the only staff that would actually down 6 start to foul that early.
They were down 9 when they started fouling, right? Was it 9? I think it was 9, right?
I thought they hit a quick 3 and then they went for the foul.
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry, you're right. I was telling someone Michigan State was down by 10 and Dylan Cardwell was on the floor and Michigan State had just committed their 6th foul. And I was like, look, if I'm Michigan State right here, anytime Dylan Cardwell touches the ball until we have a 2-shot foul, I am fouling him and making him shoot 1-on-1s. Because the absolute best thing that you can do defensively, the way to limit what offense or how well Auburn can score, is to make Dylan Cardwell, who literally shoots 27% from the free throw line, he's the only person that shoots worse than him from the free throw line is Jeff Goodman. Make him shoot free throws. Make him hit 2. I've seen Jeff Goodman shoot. I'm not allowed.
He can throw, man. He's challenged you to a football throwing contest again.
Congratulations. You don't cover football, Jeff.
I don't think he could throw it around the creek or throw it across the creek in San Antonio.
He
claims
he
he
actually
can.
I'll give him credit. Like he actually is it. Like he's got like long arms and it's the worst throwing motion you've ever seen, but he's able to whip that thing pretty far.
He's a slingshotter.
He's a slingshotter. Yeah, it's the worst form you've ever seen. If he actually played baseball or football, he'd have Tommy John surgery in about 3 months. But
I'm a little pissed because I can't come to the Final Four. I just got the media day pickup email, and I'm mad that I'm not going to be able to be there.
I was gonna respond to it. I was gonna say I was gonna say T.O. Let me get on your team. Just so that you could have to say I'm not going to the Final Four to this entire group, but then the end of it was CJ was like, please don't reply all. I might still reply all anyway, just to mess with CJ Moore, who was taking over pickup game duties from
Pete Hamill. Yeah.
Also
got
shout
too
out
big.
to I love the that they're doing that for Patrick Behan. That's a side note. He played at Bucknell, was the coach at St. John's outside of DC, who was battling ALS. I've known him for years and years. We played in the same men's league outside of DC, and so it's shout out to I think Pete and CJ probably put that together to raise money for him.
God bless him.
ALS. Yeah, I thought Michigan State should have fouled Dylan Cardwell at some point in the second half there, and I love that Florida is the team that would actually find a way to be able to do that. All right. Before we get into, I want to preview these games a little bit here, but before we do that, I want to know, and I asked this to Goodman and Latulip last night. Who does this Final Four mean more for? Like getting here, who does this mean the most for out of the four coaches that we have? T.O., I'll go to you first on this one. Because I have a take, and you guys can tell me if I'm
I
wrong.
think it's Shire and Golden, like both of those guys. It's kind of been affirming to them, like, hey, we're here. It's not like, hey, we're the future, we're the now. That's kind of what I would be for both of those guys. And you're going to see it. They've both recruited incredibly well, and obviously those brands recruit for themselves a little bit, but at the same time, like there's an element of who's next, and we've kind of been searching for who's next, guys. It's kind of been a topic of conversation. Like Shire's, he's not next, he's now. Todd Golden, he's not next, he's now. So I think for both of those guys, that's where I would lean.
Well, I'll counter for the sake of entertainment and a little bit of an argument here, and I'll say Kelvin Sampson, if he loses to Purdue, you're sitting there saying, man, they only took one Big 12 loss. They rolled through their competition. Then they get to the tournament again. And again, their offense does them in. Again, LJ Cryer has a rough shooting night. They can never win the big one. They can never get there. Even though they did it one time. But it was during the COVID tournament.
Right.
It was in the bubble, which let's face it, regardless of however we look at that, there just weren't as many fans. It was a different tournament. It was. This was huge for him because you're sitting there saying, like, Kelvin, when is he going to get that national championship? This presents as much of a case as any because of the way that they can stick teams into the blender defensively and they just grind you down. They can make it a 1 or 2 possession game late. On the other side, for Bruce Pearl, this is huge. You start the year 27-2. Nobody's talked about last year. What happened last year? Had a heck of a team. One and done. Lose to Yale. All right. Well, Bruce made that Final Four in 2019. But what's going to happen now? Like, are they going to be able to get there? They lost 3 of 4 going in the NCAA tournament. For both these guys, these are two guys that fully cement their legacy if they win a national championship. And you're talking about all the accolades that can come with that, their win count, all that they've accomplished. That's how you get Springfield talk for the Hall of Fame and whatnot. When you've got rings, when you are wearing rings, 2 rings, Baldy. When you've got rings on your finger, then you're going to be able to, to flourish. By the way, I have it on authority that Dan Hurley will be in San Antonio.
Oh, let's go.
So he is coming down, even though I'm
get the octagon and have him bring in every media member he doesn't like. Bring him in the octagon.
I'm ready for that on the Riverwalk. It should. I mean, it's gonna be entertaining here.
Yeah, it is.
So here's the thing. I think
hold on, real quick. A story on
right.
that. Last time the Final Four was in San Antonio, it was 2:00 in the morning.
I was coaching.
I'm not going to say who the coach was, but I was walking along the Riverwalk with Goodman and Borzello and Norlander, Parrish, a couple other media members. You might have actually been there, Fant. I don't remember if you were there or not.
No, I was only a year out of school. I was not in the crowd yet.
Okay, so we ran into a coach and his agent who Goodman had put on the hot seat list, and the coach was not happy that Goodman was on the hot seat list, or that Goodman had put him on the hot seat list.
Put Goodman on there.
And there was a
Goodman on the hot seat.
There was a little, let's just say there was a little bit of a confrontation there at the edge of the Riverwalk at about 2 a.m. outside of Casa Rio. And that was one of those ones where I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, no one has camera phones, right? There's no video being taken. Okay.
No, they have it now.
I think we'll be good for right now. Maybe let's move this elsewhere, guys. But yeah,
you never know. You never know what you're going to see on the Riverwalks. Not like Bourbon Street. It's a little different, more civilized. But I love Final Four Saturday. I love Final Four Saturday morning when all the coaches are still in town and you can literally walk the Riverwalk and everybody in their staff is out to breakfast and you can just kind of like shoot the breeze and it's elite people watching to see what's going on, who's meeting with who, how it's all going down. I can't wait.
Who's hungover? Who's hungover?
Yes, the best part is when you're walking through, the coach's hotel lobby, and it's even more to the point at a place like San Antonio where everything is in one spot, and you're just like, yep, that's a job interview over there. Yep, that assistant coach right there is probably interviewing for a job with that head coach. Oh, yep, that right over there is a guy trying to work something in the transfer portal. I've seen that NIL agent before. I know why he's talking to that coach over there. It's always fun to walk through and see who is sitting with who and who is eating with who.
Back to the coaching argument. I think it's actually as compelling a storyline this week as any because you could make an argument for each of the four guys. Honestly, it means a lot for Todd Golden. Let's face it. In November and December, he was not in the good graces of virtually anybody, and we had to wait and see what would happen with that investigation, and we know what that concluded. I think for him and his team to have to go through something like that within the course of their season, and his AD, Scott Strickland, was pretty emotional yesterday, talking about the road for Todd and the road for Florida basketball here. I mean, remember, guys, they hired him from San Francisco. They didn't hire him from some high major. When they made this hire, there was a lot of skepticism of like, is this going to work out to the degree? Rob, you were not a skeptic. T.O., you were not a skeptic, but there were people who were skeptics. And I also think for Shire,
I was a little skeptic. I wasn't a doubter, but I wasn't convinced.
Farnham wasn't. That was a hell of a prediction.
Farnham nailed it.
Yeah, shout out to Farnham, man. He nailed that one.
He nailed it.
I was a little. I wanted to see what would happen and how that would translate to the SEC, because it's one thing to play the analytics game and say we're going to identify guys that are better than we realize when you're bringing them to San Francisco. It's another thing when you're bringing guys to the same conference as Kentucky and Alabama and Arkansas, and where you have all of these big dogs and Auburn. And I think that he has outperformed expectations because they've done it a little bit differently, right? They've been able to get mid-major guys that they were able to identify, and they've gotten some big guys that have gone a little bit against the grain. Like the one overarching storyline I think that we can see here is the value of playing two big guys is very, very real in college basketball.
If they can play.
Yes.
I think it's space the floor too a little bit.
Yeah, they got to be able to play.
But you got Janai Broom and Dylan Cardwell in one spot. You got Ruben Chinyelu and Alex Condon in another spot. And you got
Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden.
You got Jawan Roberts and JoJo Tugler.
Javier Francis.
Yep. And Javier Francis playing at Houston. Duke is the only team that has been able to really lean all the way into like the analytics era and build a team like you do in the NBA. And I think it's proof of how hard it is to make NBA style of basketball work at the college level, because they have four guys that start that are 6'5" to 6'9" that are all switchable with a 7'2" dude in the middle, and then their backup five is a 6'9" guy that can switch everything, right? And it's
Cooper Flagg's also
but to be able to do that,
those other guys.
You had
Malawat's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, man, unbelievable how good he's gotten, and I don't think he's even close to what he's going to be.
No, I'll
tell you what.
He's still a rocket ship on the way. You compared him to Derek Lively in the preseason. T.O., I gave you your flowers the other night. I hate. I'm completely loath to give you credit for anything ever. But do you remember what you said in I think it was after Kentucky or after Kansas beat Duke in Las Vegas?
It was after Kentucky beat Duke.
Was it after Kentucky beat Duke? You said if these two teams play again down the road, Duke wins. And I believe the quote was, I might have to go find it. I think you said, I think Duke is going to be the best team in the country by the time we get to February.
Well, he was right.
Yeah, I hate
you were right, and they are the best team, and they're the odds-on favorite.
Between
I also
Duke
said
being
Kentucky
the best
was.
team,
I also said Kentucky was going to plateau, which also happened.
Yes.
Did they really plateau?
Well, they did. They to a degree they did. They showed some flaws.
Yeah,
they showed some flaws. They didn't keep surging. But you know what? Here's what's awesome about this Final Four. Duke is the best team.
Yeah.
They can lose.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Houston can beat anybody with the style at which they play. Do you know how exhausting it has to be to play them? I mean, I don't even want to understand or come to fathom that, because you could just tell Tennessee looked defeated. You give those kids credit. Zakai Ziegler, hail to you. Unbelievable career. I saw your emotions, man, and I just want to congratulate you on everything you did. But you want to talk about giving a team's offense fits. 15 points in a half of basketball?
That was insane.
I mean, it's absolutely absurd what they're doing. And they do this to really good teams, really freaking good teams. So if they stay in front of Duke, make Duke shoot over them, that's where in a football stadium, you don't know. Oh, by the way, Houston's got some prep in that. They just played 2 road games at a football stadium.
Yep.
At Lucas Oil Stadium. Don't forget it. The setup was a little different, but don't forget it. But I do think underlying all this, there's a very real chance for us a week from right now doing our pregame show and talking about why that night for John Shire offers the window of a new chapter of a book in college basketball. And when Duke is at the top, it's like the Dodgers and Yankees in baseball, or what the Chiefs or the Patriots have been in football, or what the Celtics, Steph's Warriors were in the NBA. People lean in to watching the brand that they identify most with in the sport. And there's no more identifiable brand through the years and previously under Coach K than Duke. Has there been a guy who's been better at replacing the guy than John Shire has been replacing Mike Krzyzewski?
I don't know. And I don't think so. I think another thing, too, that we have kind of discounted, and I've brought this up before, but the fact that Kay was like, this is going to be my last year, John's going to be the head coach, and then it's going to allow him to recruit at the same level to where if I suddenly announce it, guys aren't going to leave. If I suddenly announce it, like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people were like, well, he wants the attention. I think there was an element of that. Let's not get it twisted. I think there was an element of Coach K wanted a little attention. However, he did a massive favor to Shire.
Remember, Jay was at that Final Four. Like that Final Four will forever go down as one of the wildest Final Fours we've ever seen. The 2022 in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like we had
awesome.
2 retirement tours. One that was very loud, and then Dana O'Neill asked Jay Wright the question, and he stuttered. We didn't know then. But like Rob, I want to ask you, Rob.
And now Dana O'Neill's out here hiring Jay Wright's replacement.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, really, just like full circle. And that replacement was Jay Wright's biggest rival in the Big East. Really weird, like just an incredible type of twist of events that we can get to. But Rob, I want to ask you this question. Number one, how much does Shire, like, how much do you like the likability factor? How much is that a thing? Because it feels like Rob
sucks to like him.
He's smiling. He's appreciating this. He's relishing in it with his kids and his relatives. And 2, like, when you think, I know you said the NBA type stuff, but, you know, are we watching the beginning of Duke's return to, you know, being in that class, but to that degree every single damn year?
I don't know if it's every single year. I think that Shire has really hit like you're not getting.
This was a special group. This was a special group, and I think Con Knippel, like we talk about Cooper all the time, and rightfully so. But Con Knippel's a dude. I will next year. I think they're going to be really good too, and they got to hit it again with a bunch of like older transfers to go along with the Boozer brothers and all that. I do think they're going to be every year in the top 10. I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, but they
bench warning. I asked Rob the question. Bench warning.
Bench warning. I was outside the coaching box. Get out of the box.
Very much so.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything you just said. I think that, but Duke is always like in the top 10 every year. That's they're Duke, right? The thing that I'm so impressed by is John Shire, who when he played was one of the more disliked guys in college basketball, is coaching a Duke program that has two white guys that are absolute killers, right? And they are dominating everybody. And it doesn't seem like anybody hates them. Like there is no like backlash the way that everybody hated JJ Redick or the way that everybody hated Grayson Allen. Or
they don't talk like that.
Or hated Bobby.
No, they don't. That's a great point.
Yeah, they don't. There's no. They're only out there about winning. Like they don't care about anything else. How many have you ever seen Cooper Flagg do a one-on-one interview with anybody since he got to Duke that wasn't with wasn't like a post-game thing on TV?
Not a soul.
No, he sat down with The Athletic and that was it. He's done one interview.
Won't even
the
try
entire season that wasn't like a contractually obligated TV thing that they had to do. That's it. He doesn't.
His breakout room. If they win on Saturday, his breakout room on Sunday is going. They should use the main press room.
Yeah, that's who everyone's going to want to talk to. Like it's insane that he has gotten where he is, but he doesn't talk at all. Like all he cares about is winning. And I don't know, man. Like normally, like you would think 10 years ago that if Cooper Flagg showed up with Coach K, like everyone would despise him. But like John is, and to your question about John, like I think I've told this story before, right? I will,
dude, man.
I will always root for John Shire because he. One of my, I've told you guys this. I don't know if I've said it on this pod, but one of my son's friends had cancer and was going through chemo, and it was after the 2023 Champions Classic. I happened to walk by John, like underneath after they just beat. It was, I'm gonna say Michigan State in double overtime or something like that. And he was just kind of sitting there talking, waiting to go up to the press room. I was like, hey, listen, man. If you got 30 seconds, can you just like record something real quick to my son's friend? He's a big college basketball fan. He's a Carolina fan, but I know it would mean a lot if like you said something to him. And he takes my phone. He's like, what's the kid's name? Knocks out a 30-second video, one and done. And the way he ends it is like, whenever you're ready to come over to the good side, we need more Duke fans over here. And I sent it, and the kid, like, it helped. T.O., you sent him a video too. Yeah. Shout out to, I think what you said was bald is beautiful.
That's right.
And so I'll always appreciate and always be a fan of Shire for that. It was right after a game that he won on national television with the number 3 team in America. He picked up the phone to send a video to a kid with some reporter that like it just, with people that do stuff like that is, it's different than a typical level of a Duke coach. So I'm always
he's a good guy, man.
He's a good.
I think that's the thing that just comes back to John Shire, just a good dude, and I think it permeates through people's screen too.
Yep. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68. Bet insurance tokens, odds boosts, and what I love, a nice parlay boost or two here or there. Be sure to keep your eye out in the app for the Field of 68 specials that we'll be running throughout the season as well. So go download the BetMGM app to sign up today. College basketball fans, are you ready to take your hoops game to a new level? Whether you're a seasoned bettor or just trying to win your March Madness office pool, Rhythm is here to give you the edge this season. With data-driven predictions for every single college basketball game left on the schedule, Rhythm helps you maximize your bets. And as March Madness kicks off, Rhythm's insights will help you spot those plucky Cinderellas that you know are going to shake up the NCAA tournament. But that's not all. When Selection Sunday rolls around, let Rhythm's AI-powered bracket generator do the heavy lifting for you. This is the same AI tool that performed 35% better than the average ESPN bracket last year. And here's the best part. Rhythm pairs perfectly with our Field of 68 expert analysis, giving you the 1-2 punch that you need for the rest of the college basketball season. So don't wait. Download Rhythm today and get ready to see college basketball and your betting results in a whole new light. March Madness is here, and you know what that means. Buzzer beaters, high stakes hoops, and it's a time where legends are made. In other words, it is time to wear chubbies. Pretty good segue, right? Chubways has mastered the art of stylish casual wear that doesn't skimp out on performance or durability, whether it's their bright, stretchy polos, their iconic thigh-exposing shorts, or their one-of-a-kind swim trunks. It's the perfect threads to wear as you helplessly watch your bracket predictions fail. Watching games with your friends, Chubby's original shorts gives you that classic feel with a modern look. You hitting the gym to make up for all the pizza, wings, and beer that you consumed in the last 4 days? Chubby's ultimate training shorts are built to sweat. And to sweeten the deal for you, for just a limited time, Chubby's is giving all of our listeners 20% off your order with the exclusive code F68. So use code F68 at chubbysshorts.com. That's chubbysshorts.com. All right, let's talk about these actual games, and we're going to have a lot of time to preview these games. But I want your initial thoughts, and I want to start with, you know what? I'm going to start with you on this, T.O. Which is the game that you're looking forward to the most? Like, what is going to be the better game? Todd Golden facing off with the guy that hired him from Columbia as a Dobo back in 2014, or John Shire and the number one offense in the history of KenPom's database taking on Houston and the number one defense in America and the number one defensive culture that I think I've ever seen in college basketball. Duke, Houston, Florida, Auburn. What are you looking forward to more? And is that the hardest question you've ever had to answer?
That is a tough one. Shoe buddy. Shoe buddy. I think we're going to have the best national championship game in a long time. I think it's entirely possible that both the semifinal games go awry. I think it's entirely possible that Duke beats the brakes off of Houston.
Why?
Because Houston relies on a lot of hard shots. Duke does too, to an extent, but they just find a way to make them a little bit easier. I don't know. I think it's going to be a great freaking weekend, and I'm so pissed off and jealous that I can't even focus on the question. That's where I'm at right now. If I had to pick one game, I think the storyline of Golden having worked for Pearl is really cool. I think it's really, really cool. And for them to meet at the Final Four is awesome. So I'm going to go with that just because of the storyline. Like, he was Pearl's first Dobo at Auburn. Mm-hmm. People forget that. Like, I think that's a really cool angle.
It is a very cool angle. It's fascinating. That's for sure. I will say, I think that it's Duke Houston for me because of where these teams stand on each end of the floor.
Yep.
And then for Houston, they do have, this is their best shot making team that he's had.
I agree.
Because they don't rely on one or two. They really have three guys. Emmanuel Sharp on Sunday afternoon, when the game got to 10, he hits back-to-back dagger triples. Huge. LJ Cryer's got to play his A game, maybe an A-plus game.
Yes.
You know, that we just haven't seen in this tournament anybody swarm Duke's backcourt and really make Tyrese Proctor, Sion James, and for that matter, Cooper Flagg, because Cooper Flagg's part of the backcourt because they haven't carried the ball up before sometimes. I don't know how you do it, but somebody's got to apply some pressure.
Yep.
At some point, if there's one team that could do it defensively, you'd have to believe it's the best defensive team in college basketball, one of the best of all time. The reason why I don't say Auburn, Florida, is because they've played each other.
Right. Also
evidence.
true.
I have film of them playing. I know that when you know each other well, it could produce an even better game because these two coaches, they know all each other's tricks. But if the Auburn that showed up this past weekend shows up to San Antonio, Auburn's beating Florida, and Auburn can win the national championship because that team is damn good. Not just the reason why Auburn lost 3 of 4, everyone's like, oh, they've started to miss shots. Yeah, but then they were letting that define how they guarded. And at some point, you're going to let your guard down. You started 27-2. You're going to go ahead, skip a beat. I'm not saying, it's a good thing to take a loss, but I thought it was. It allowed him to get back in the lab and refocus. It's Duke Houston for me. I want to see if Kelvin can impose his style on the most efficient offense in America. I want to see if Roberts and Francis can get on the glass and give a freshman under the bright lights, Kamamala watch some real fits and some real problems. But if Duke shows up defensively, the way they showed up against Alabama, Duke is winning this basketball game. But it's Duke-Houston because of my curiosity factor of outstanding defense, outstanding offense. Let's play.
So I think Duke-Houston is the one that I'm looking forward to the most. And I think that there's the most intrigue in how this matchup is going to happen for two reasons. One, down the stretch, especially in the second half, the one thing Duke really did to Alabama was they hunted Mark Sears. Whoever Mark Sears was guarding, they went after. Yeah, and whether it was putting him in a ball screen or having him run off of screens to try to get him into one of those like curl DHOs where you got Con Knipple coming off of Kama Malawach and he just throws that lob up to the top of the square and he dunks it. Like I think that they're going to do that to LJ Cryer over and over and over again. I think that they're going to say he's 6'1". Every one of our guards is 6'5" or taller. We're going to find who he's guarding and we're going to hunt him. And that is something that really worries me about this. The other part of it is, Tio, you could probably speak to this a little bit more.
He got Mark Sears got abused. Abused. Yeah. Sorry.
And
he sure did.
And I'm just worried about LJ Cryer dealing with that same thing. The way Houston guards ball screens is relatively unique, where they trap it, they put two on the ball, they wedge you out wide, and then they pick somebody defensively that they're not going to guard, just have that person rotate over into the middle, and then they kind of switch out of it and they get put in rotation, and they're daring you to more or less make that pass across the court. And the way that Purdue was able to beat it was they set the screens a little bit closer to the three-point line. Braden Smith dragged them out a little bit farther. They created the space, and once they got Cam Heide on the floor instead of Caleb First, all of a sudden they had shooters everywhere so that they were able to kind of spray the ball around. They did some like re-screening stuff and where they would pull it out and then have Braden Smith come off the screen going the other direction. I think with the size that Duke has in their backcourt, they will be able to see over the top of a lot of those screens and make a lot of those cross-court passes. And if you can take away what Houston does so effectively against ball screens, I think that's how you kind of beat this defense. That's what Purdue did in the second half. And I think that I don't know if this is a great matchup for Houston. I don't know if anyone's a great matchup for Duke, but I don't know if this is a great matchup for Houston because of those two aspects. And I'm worried about that. I don't know if you guys are too.
First 5 minutes is huge because if Houston's missing early and Duke breaks down on a 10-2 run to open the game, Houston's not climbing. They can't climb out of a hole. Duke's defense is too good. Duke's too overwhelming. They have the best player on the floor. You have to come out and blitz them. You got to make a statement early. You got to punch. By the way, I really like the Alamo Dome. It's a lot of fun. It's been great Final Four city and site. I'm here to say I don't think I'm really looking forward to the atmospheres because Houston people, it's not like this top 3 or 5 fan base, but you put a Final Four in the state of Texas and allow them to all drive. Auburn people are going to come out. Florida people are going to come out. Yep. But the Duke fans the Duke is a national brand. The Duke Houston crowd, woo! Yeah. That's why the early goings are so big because right now, Duke's got that UConn-like effect where all of a sudden, like in the Elite Eight last year in Boston, okay, Shannon and Domask and they're making some shots early. You're like, all right, got competitive. 10-0, 15-0, 22-0, 30-0. I'm not saying there's a 30-0 run, but Duke just went on a 13-0 run on Alabama. Yeah, they can go on that run, T.O., and if they go on that run against Houston, say goodnight, sweetheart.
Yeah, I want to make a quick point, too, because a lot of people are like, well, how come these guys have great college careers and how come, like, they don't really pan out in the NBA? I think the best way to explain that right there is what Duke was able to do to Mark Sears. And Mark Sears has had a tremendous college career. Not a good, not a great, a freaking tremendous college career. He went up against surefire NBA long-term players. That's the difference, is the size, the skill is still there, and just to be overwhelmed like that. They were matchup hunting in college. You don't think they'll be matchup hunting in the NBA? You know what they do in the NBA? They just set a screen, and then they force the switch, and then everybody get on the other side of the freaking floor. And that's it. That's what they do in the NBA. And that's why, people are like, well, why don't these guys survive? because you just get picked apart. The players in the NBA are so good, and that size is so different. That's the prerequisite to everything else. Now, I think Walter Clayton's going to have a shot because he does a couple of things really, really well. But as long as you don't have a certain amount of size, you have to be top 3 in the world at something. And like, oof, that was a perfect example of why it doesn't work at the next level for a lot of these great college players.
Mm-hmm. All right, Florida, Auburn. Let's kind of dive into that matchup. The last time that they played, Saturday, February 8th, Florida went into Neville Arena, put a big run on Auburn to end the second half, headed into the break up by 10, and went on to win 90-81. Walter Clayton Jr. had 19 points and 9 assists. He looked like a first-team All-American. I think that was the point when we all kind of realized, hey, you know what? Like, it's not a fluke. Like, this dude is an absolute monster. Elijah Martin did not play. Janai Broom had 18 points, 11 boards, and 6 assists. But it took until about midway through the second half for Auburn to really kind of wake up in that one. And that was the game where I think all of us kind of said, well, is this really the Auburn that we thought they were going to be? Like, is this really, can we pencil this team into a national title game no matter what happens? And that was the first time that we saw some cracks in the armor, as you will. Fanta, what do you make of this matchup? What do you make of the way that Todd Golden's team beat them the first time, and whether or not they'll have a chance to do the same thing again?
Well, they beat him the first time because Auburn at some point was going to have a hiccup. And Auburn did not defend that day at all. Couldn't defend. This game comes down to complimentary shot making. Like, if you're Florida, you better stop to Hot Pettiford, man. If you let that kid get cooking, it's like his threes are worth 4 or 5 points. That whole team feeds off his energy. You know, he's got that type of nightmare fuel, KD Johnson type of but on steroids, because he does it so consistently. Chad Baker-Mazara, Miles Kelly, Denver Jones. You know, that for Florida, the game is going to be won by who can get more stops. And Florida has struggled at times to do that. I thought Florida, for a good portion of the game against Texas Tech, got exposed big time. How many times did Texas Tech get to the rim in that game? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm watching the game. I'm like, how do you not have an answer right now? If you let Auburn do that, man, you're going to lose by 15 points. I think Auburn's got it coming to them. I do. I think Florida can win this game because Walter is Mr. Clutch. Man. If I'm Florida, I'm like, let me get this to 4 minutes and let it be a close game because I got the best I got the scariest guy in this tournament right now. But I'm fascinated to see what we see from Florida's front line in this game against Auburn's front line. But I think whatever Bruce Pearl looked at, you got to think he's pulling up the film again from Neville Arena to say, fellas, this is what happens when you take plays off against this Florida team. We're too good for you to be taking plays off. You got to come engage defensively. I feel Auburn will.
I want my home to feel like my home. So whether I'm looking for big furniture, just a small piece for my place, or maybe some storage solutions for the basement or the garage, the answer is Wayfair. Seriously, I needed a new patio set and fire pit for my backyard. I bought it on Wayfair. It looks great on our deck, and it gives me an excuse to fire up the smoker, invite some friends over, crack a couple beers. Just last week, I bought a new chair for my office, someplace comfortable to sit while the madness takes up the 4 screens in front of me. I got it on Wayfair, clicked a few buttons. A couple days later, it showed up at my front door. They even offered to help set it up for you. Digging through online stores can be intimidating. Trust me, I know. It can be hard to find what you're looking for in your price range, but not on Wayfair. They have great options, even if you are balling on a budget like me. Wayfair has every style for every home, including mine and yours. So head to wayfair.com and shop everything home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.
People have opinions about me, strong ones. Some compare my brand to the competition and call me a copycat. Some say that I'm just watered down, that I fall flat. I've heard it all. But the people who get me, they say I'm different, subtle, but balanced. Nothing to hide, nothing artificial. And once they give me a chance, they keep coming back for more. For more dad water. That's right, I'm talking about dad water, and I swear by it. No bubbles, no fizz, just a smooth, refreshing canned cocktail made with real tequila. 100 calories, 0 sugar, 0 carbs, and gluten-free. Find Dab Water's 4 flavors in an 8-pack variety pack or single flavor 6-packs. Dab Water invites you to enjoy its great lineup of products all tournament long. Take it from me, Jeff Goodman. Sometimes the most polarizing things are the best things. Dab Water, tequila, water, natural flavors.
My guys, have you ever lifted just a little bit too hard and you forget to apply your daily deodorant and then get hit with a truckload of BO from all directions? From the founders of Lumi, Mando Whole Body Deodorant is helping men conquer their odor in a new way. Formulated with mandelic acid, Mando has long-lasting 72-hour odor control that actually stops odor before it starts. But the best part, you can put Mando anywhere, your pit, your packages, your feet, your skin folds, your back, your knees, everywhere. And to top it off, Mando's cologne quality scents were created with men in mind. Pro tip, try their best-selling scent, Bourbon Leather. Once you experience the fresher underarms, a fresher package, and fresher feet, you will never go back. There is a special offer now for new customers. You get $5 off their starter pack with our exclusive code and link. Use code F68 at shopmando.com. That's F68 at SHOPMANDO.com. Owning property in the state of Texas is difficult enough. Paying taxes on your property should not make your life any more complicated. Ownwell believes that when it comes to paying property taxes, you should only pay what's fair. In under 3 minutes, you can sign up and have their team of Texas experts start saving you money without a single upfront cost. It's easy. When you sign up, you get an instant estimate of the tax savings they can get you so that when that property tax bill comes due, the amount that you have to fork over to Uncle Sam isn't quite as painful. Put property tax money back in your pocket in just minutes. 86% of customers receive a reduction with an average savings of more than $1,100. Imagine how much less stress you'll have in your life knowing that you could take some of the money that you have earmarked for the IRS and spend it on, I don't know, an 85-inch flat screen to watch March Madness. The deadline to protest is May 15th for most Texas counties. Sign up in less than 3 minutes and start your protest today at ownwell.com/CBB. That's OWNWELL.com/CBB.
Man, it's such a quality matchup, but this seems to be the kind of game with all the emotions. There's some familiarity between both teams. Walter Clayton's been amazing. You almost wonder, like, is the horseshoe that's been stuck up his hind parts going to fall out? Because some of these shots that he's been making, like
a horseshoe that's been stuck
in his hind parts, is going to fall out. Because he made one, like he jumped and did a 180, then faded away and made a 3.
Unbelievable.
To ice the Texas Tech game. Auburn has not had that kind of sequence needed. I wonder if, is Florida going to be able to rattle off one more like that? And I feel like they've kind of tested the waters a little bit, beating UConn by 2. It just feels like they can just make you move. They can make you move. And here's the good part. Auburn can't move. How does Janai Broom play ball screen defense against Walter Clayton? Because I think, that knee, whenever he came down, sprained his knee, pulled back his knee, and then an ankle went, and then his wrist was gone. Or is he going to be able to guard in ball screen situations? Done. Yeah, he was done and then came back out. So, there's a little bit of a Paul Pierce situation.
You ever had that as a player?
What's that?
You take a fall and you're like, shoot, I'm done in this game.
There's only been one time where I knew I was done. And that's when I ripped my hamstring my last year. That was the only time I was like, yep, that'll do it.
Wow.
That was the only time. But it's how is he going to be able to play against Walter Clayton, who's quicker than a wet fart? That's what I'm worried about.
And Walter Clayton is one of the best point guards in college basketball against drop. You can't play drop coverage against them. And and that's what Auburn wants to do with Janai Broom. Now, if they want to switch that up a little bit, Texas Tech, Maryland did it in the first half where they started stringing them out more instead of just playing a deep drop. And that worked for about a half. And then Maryland realized their coach was leaving for Villanova and decided that they were not going to show up for the second half of that game. I don't expect that to happen with Auburn. But that's the key to the matchup for me is how are they going to handle those ball screens and those DHOs and some of that zoom action that they like to put Walter Clayton Jr. in, because when he's coming off of that, if he gets going, like he's the head of the snake, man. You got to slow that down. You got to stop
And
it.
yet again, we enter Final Four week, and you can just tell that there's going to be one more set of coaching carousel trickle down events from horse to horse, and something weird's going to happen. You can already smell it.
Please elaborate, John Fanta.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying that I think Maryland's going to try to go big game hunting to make a statement. I think they're going to get a Southeastern Conference head coach, and I think when that Southeastern Conference head coach leaves for the Maryland job, that it's going to lead to a search there, and then a search wherever the other party goes, and then maybe another search. So this is the closest thing to last year's drama of Cal going to Arkansas, and everyone's like, Maryland's gonna be quick. They'll be quick. They might be, but it's
They don't
Maryland.
have an athletic director. How can you be quick when you don't have?
They're not going to be quick.
You don't have the guy that's supposed to be doing the hiring to hire this guy. Like that's the part of why it's like such bad timing for Willard to leave. They don't have.
Yeah, but
they don't have someone.
They went to the Sweet 16. They went to the Sweet 16. Like
I think Willard wanted out of he wanted out of the Big Ten. He wanted to get back to the Big East.
I
think the writing's on the wall for basketball.
Timing. So what do you want him to do ahead of the first round game? Say he's out and then lose to Grand Canyon? I don't know. The players will never be forgotten. Derek Queen, Julian Reese, Jacoby Gillespie, they were all part of something special. Congratulations to those players for the first Sweet 16 run since 2016. I'm sorry, but there's two sides to every story here. You're Maryland. You're in the Big Ten. I know you have money. If you really the fact that this didn't get worked out, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
I think he was ready to get back to a basketball conference.
He wanted to get back in the Northeast. He wanted to come back up near New Jersey where he can hit the shore, where he can go golfing and have some wine. And he admires Villanova because he admires Jay Wright.
Look, all I'm going to say is that I like the Jersey Shore. Give me Rehoboth and Bethany Beach and the Delaware beaches over the Jersey Shore 9 times out of 10. I don't think that's an excuse. I do think that the fact that the Big Ten is always going to be football centric, and you are always going to have to put the priority on being able to justify the revenue that comes in for football. It's never going to change.
It's Villanova.
You get to Villanova, and the priority is always going to be the basketball program. And I know how much they're going to be spending in NIL this year. It's more than what he was going to get at Maryland. And I don't blame him, man. If you didn't like your job, you didn't like your boss, you don't know who your boss is going to be, and you get to go to a place where you know you're going to like your boss, and it's a basketball conference, it's better for you. I don't like the way that it played out.
Right.
I don't think that Kevin handled it very well in the press conferences. You probably could have been a little bit more PR friendly, shall we say.
He thought he was clear on the runway.
Yeah, but it's also like,
when you say that, what do you mean? When you say he thought he was clearing the runway?
He was saying he knew that it was going to be a polarizing move to leave, so he was trying to show people why he was leaving ahead of doing so.
No, I'm not worried about the part of like saying what was wrong with Maryland. It was just kind of well, I haven't spoken to we know you've spoken to your agent. I haven't spoken to we know you've spoken to your wife. It's a horrible position to be in. Just be like, guys, I'm not talking about this right now. Or do the deflecting thing where he's like, yeah, well, we got to worry about Walter Clayton, who's this good, going to his right hand.
He should have done that the whole time. But I also understand what he was doing too.
But it's also a situation that he because of the way that the portal has changed the timeline for a lot of these coaching changes, it's something where these processes are going to get started earlier and earlier and earlier every single year. And he was kind of a victim of victim's the wrong word, but he was at the mercy of the schedule to a point. So
let me give you something quick.
Give it to me.
Remember when UConn came back to the Big East and Kevin was asked about that? He said in the press, he goes, I don't need him. Oh yeah. Yeah. Remember, I mean, if you look it up. So you got that cooking again. You got the guy up in stores just observing. down at Villanova. You got Rick.
Yeah, yeah, Rick.
You got Rick. Who did Kevin work for?
Oh man,
Rick. There's a pass there, and there's a little bit of like boss pupil type stuff there. There's Richard. If you're Rick Pitino, look at the circle here of like interconnectivity. Not to mention when Kevin goes back to Seton Hall against a coach who now is out with a chip on his shoulder to prove that he can run the program and do what Kevin did. With what I'm being told behind the scenes is much boosted money that was needed to help the program and build a team that's competent in the Big East.
hey,
Like
Fana,
there's a
Fana,
lot of fascinating dynamics.
To put this into perspective, the number that I've heard for Seton Hall NIL is roughly the same and probably slightly higher than the number that I heard that Willard got cleared for at Maryland for NIL.
Yes.
And I think that should just kind of put into perspective the value of being in the Big East here. Listen, this has been fun, fellas. Fanta, I can't wait to see you down there in Houston. I can't wait, or in San Antonio. I can't wait to be able to jump on some of these shows. T.O., I still think that if you can find a flight and get down there for a day, you should do it. Guys,
tell the people where they can find us this week.
I was about to do that. We are going to be at Smoke Sky Bar on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. local time. We'll be doing those streams live on the Field of 68 YouTube and on the Field of 68X channels. We will be doing a pregame show from a location that is not finalized yet, but I believe we will be doing it as a block away from the Alamo Dome. I don't want to say the name, but the plan is to be a block away from the Alamo Dome on game day, on Saturday and on Monday. And then post game, we will be live from the arena. And T.O. is very, very sad right now that we are talking about all of this.
Yeah.
That's what my son looks like when I take away his tablet.
T.O.'s upset when the championship game ends.
Hey, man, T.O.'s sad. You want to come make him feel better?
And they come on at the Alamo Dome and they go.
T.O.'s really sad. Come here. Look how sad he is. Come here.
First we'll do this, and then I'll tell the story.
She's being shy. Go ahead, Fana.
And they'll go in the stadium, and the media room is full with hundreds of media, and they'll come on the speaker as we wrap our show, and they'll go, media members, Pizza Hut is in the dining room. And you proceed to watch hundreds of grown people who have not eaten in 10 hours run because no one out pizzas the Hut in their minds. You could literally come on the speaker in the stadium and say, ladies and gentlemen, there's bread and water in the media. And you would just see, I mean, they could serve anything, but that's always one of my T.O.'s ready to go. I think I'm going to see Terrence in San Antonio.
I think he's going to make it.
One piece of advice for all media members, bring gum, because some people's breath is just abysmal because you haven't eaten for days. Bring gum. If you're listening to this and you're going to the Final Four, fucking bring all the gum you have
at the pump party.
Don't be shy when it comes to just putting more gum in your mouth. Just
you ready for pump party, Rob?
I have. I always get the 30 packs, like the hard case of the extra peppermint. You get one of those. It'll cover you for the entire weekend.
Load up.
Yep.
By the way, last point. Media member or assistant coach. If you tell me on Friday you're exhausted, media member, you know who you are. You chose to go out until that time and then go to work. So I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear.
Who are you talking about, John Fanta? Who are you talking about there?
Don't be an old man. Oh, I am so tired. Rob, you're gonna get that Friday or Saturday. I am exhausted from someone, and you just have to look at the person and be like, well, these are life decisions that you made that led us to this point.
Mm-hmm.
I know,
dude,
but I had to.
I'll never forget New Orleans. We're at the semifinal day after it, and my wife's watching it. She goes, "Oh my God, is Rob okay?"
Here we go.
We're over there talking. Rob's with you. Is Rob okay? That was the best, dude. That was such a fun one.
Yeah, that was the I think
was
I
fun.
said this last night. I think that was the Final Four that I found myself looking forward to the most ever because I hadn't been to one since
Purple hat.
2019. And by the way, Fana, you said the last great national title game, it was 2019. It was the Virginia Texas Tech one. Remember,
That's
DeAndre
right.
Hunter hit the 3 to force overtime after they were down big to Texas Tech, and then they came back and they won in the.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was a great
You're right.
one. That was a great one.
This
all
has
right.
potential.
Hopefully we get a couple great games.
Picks.
Oh yeah, picks. Fana, who you got? Give me your prediction.
Auburn and Duke.
And
Duke wins.
T.O.
Florida and Duke. Duke wins.
I have Florida and Duke in my bracket, and I'm flipping it. I think Auburn wins.
Ooh.
I think Auburn beats Duke.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I think Auburn beats Florida.
Wow.
And then Duke beats Auburn. This is
We
the
all have
coronation
Duke
of
winning
Duke.
it all.
This is going to end up being
Scary.
the coronation of Duke. Like it just is the same thing last year with UConn. Like
You never know, man.
you never know, and this is the year for something to have something crazy to happen. But like this is going to be, this is the coronation of Duke that we're seeing this year.
You would think, but an Auburn Duke final could be a all-time
epic, man.
championship showdown.
Could be
I mean,
absolutely
my God.
epic. Hey,
My
do you ever know of a Final Four? Auburn's played Florida, Duke, and Houston this year. Has there ever
Yeah.
been a Final Four where one team played the other three teams during the season? I can't think of one. I might go research that. We're going to put the Field of 68 research department, a.k.a. Dagan Hughes, on it.
See ya.
See you guys.